Hello guys, welcome back. My name is Nathan and today I'm going to be discussing Zack Kassian getting suspended 2 games for retaliation on Matthew Tkachuk and the aftermath of the crazy brawl in the Flames vs. Oilers game. Now, after the crazy Oilers vs. Flames game, the Battle of Alberta, which lived up to all the hype, Zack Kassian, of course, gets suspended 2 games for his actions against Tkachuk. But there's been a lot of info coming out today about what the Oilers players think, what Matthew Tkachuk thinks, and of course, what Kassian thinks. So, what is coming out of this whole situation? What are my full thoughts on this? And should Kassian have gotten more, less, or was the suspension deserved? Watch till the end for all my thoughts, and of course, subscribe if you're new. Now, before I even get to my full thoughts, I need to let my bias be out there because it is a thing. I like the Flames, I like the Oilers too. I like both of these teams, but I have always liked Matthew Tkachuk, even dating to his OHL days. Even though he was a rat, and he can be especially now, I still like Matthew Tkachuk, and he's still been one of my favorite players on Calgary. Not because of the dirty hits, but because of the other fantastic play he has. So just letting that be out there because the bias is there. And of course, in this situation, Kassian ends up getting 2 games for suspension, and Matthew Tkachuk ends up getting nothing. Now, it's very interesting that Zack Kassian will serve the 2-game suspension, and the first game he'll come back in is versus the Calgary Flames. Not sure if that was intentional or not, but in this situation, it was one that I personally was not able to watch live. Obviously, I watched a lot of it afterwards as it was a big story, but I wasn't watching this game when it happened, and I kind of regret that because there was a lot to talk about here. Now, first and foremost, we have the Matthew Tkachuk, the first hit he laid on Kassian, and this is a hit that I think can go both ways. I don't know if it's a direct clean hit. I also don't know if it was intentional. I don't think Matthew Tkachuk intended to hurt Kassian in the way he did. But in that situation, I think there was still a decent bit of head contact, and it was not the greatest hit. And even as a Matthew Tkachuk fanboy, I think it was 100% dirty, and I think in that instance alone, maybe deserved a 1-game suspension. But I think it should have been Kassian who got the most of it, especially after the retaliation he had. But again, keep in mind with the 2 dirty hits that Matthew Tkachuk had. We don't know that those were deliberate, that he wanted to hit his head, and he wanted to have the concussion, at least in the first hit there, where he did end up clipping the head of Kassian. Again, I think it was a dirty hit. But then Kassian, after the next incident, and going after Matthew Tkachuk, pretty much slamming him to the ground and forcing his hand on his head. That was pretty much deliberate, going after the head of Matthew Tkachuk. And Matthew Tkachuk ended up diving, and of course, Zack Kassian had a few choice words for that. Again, I don't defend Matthew Tkachuk in that situation either, but he definitely did get the better end of it. He got away with the hits that he ended up getting. And Zack Kassian, who retaliated, who bit on Matthew Tkachuk's dirtiness, ended up getting the 2-game suspension for a pretty obvious hitting to the head. And that's the thing here, is that Matthew Tkachuk wins in this situation. His team got the win, the 4-3 win versus Edmonton, and he got away with nothing. That's Matthew Tkachuk's style of play, and he did it once again so perfectly. And you could hate Tkachuk, you could love Tkachuk, but either way, you have to admit that he won in this situation, not getting any punishment and getting away with it unscathed and getting the win for the Calgary Flames, who right now sit first in the Pacific as I'm recording this video. So, in this situation, even as a Tkachuk fan, I still think he should have got suspended though. I mean, with Zack Kassian, I think that play deserved the suspension. I would say probably maybe 3 or 4 games, while Tkachuk maybe gets a 1 and 2. It depends on the situation. But with Kassian, he ended up getting 2 and Tkachuk nothing, which I don't necessarily agree with, but I can see why. But with Kassian, that's a situation that, again, he'll be out for 2 games. It isn't a huge loss for Edmonton. It's not like Connor McDavid's going out, obviously, but it's a situation that Matthew Tkachuk once again wins at. This is a rivalry, though, that will not just stop here. Again, there will be another game between Calgary and Edmonton coming up, and Zack Kassian will play in that game. I'm not sure we're going to see up to this extent of the play, of this dirtiness and all-around bad hits, but I think it will be a rivalry to keep up on. Before Kassian getting 2 games, he'll serve a suspension, and Matthew Tkachuk will get nothing. Not even a fine or anything, which again, I personally disagree with, but Zack Kassian gets a short end of the stick. Sticking up for himself, yes, but at the same time, there were some hits there that I didn't necessarily agree with for Tkachuk and Zack Kassian. But if I was somehow the Department of Player Safety head and I had the choice, I would give Kassian 4 and likely Tkachuk maybe 2 or 3 games. But again, I'm in no position to do that, just giving my opinion on YouTube. It's not that much of a serious thing. But for Matthew Tkachuk, as a guy that likes him, it still wasn't the greatest look whatsoever. And even if you do hate him, I don't necessarily disagree with you. Again, there is a lot to hate with Matthew Tkachuk, and that's his style of play. He gets under your skin, and he somehow gets away with it. Just like his brother, and just like his dad before it. It was classic Matthew Tkachuk hockey, and I didn't agree with that first hit. I didn't even agree with the second hit he laid. But at the same time, Matthew Tkachuk wins this situation, and his team got on the win column and also gets unscathed from player safety, which for him, somehow, he was able to accomplish, which I still don't know how he did with that, especially that first hit, which I thought should have been suspension worthy, but alas, he gets it done in the end, and somehow Kassian gets 2 games, and Tkachuk gets nothing. And then we had a few quotes after the fact from some Oilers players, most notably Leon Draisaitl, where he said this. Leon Draisaitl, when asked what he would do if he and McDavid had to play with Tkachuk in a 3-on-3 All-Star game, quote, "I would get off the ice," unquote. And that's just kind of the jab that this Oilers and Flames teams really are rivaling right now. I mean, that just explains it. Even when Leon Draisaitl is getting this verbally into it and is getting into it, that's just a great sign of how good the battle is right now. These two teams are two pretty solid teams, and again, the heat between these two, no pun intended, is at an all-time high. And not even just Leon Draisaitl, there was James Neal who came out, basically just slamming Tkachuk. It is not a rivalry that is that friendly right now. Obviously, you could tell the Kassian-Tkachuk situation, but in this whole one, I'm just excited for what comes next. Honestly, between Oilers, between the Calgary Flames, it's just an all-out brawl. Honestly, I don't even know what's going to even happen in the next game because there's going to be so much more blood between these two teams already. We've already seen it throughout this year, and we'll see it once again. But of course, with this video, I need to hear y'all's thoughts down in those comments down below. Let me know what you think about this whole crazy situation and drama between Tkachuk and Zack Kassian getting 2 games for the suspension. Of course, share this video with your friends. Get this video out there, boys. On the road to 11K subscribers. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that notification bell as well. Zack Kassian gets 2 games for suspension, and Matthew Tkachuk somehow able to get away with it. My name is Nathan, and I'll see y'all in the next video or stream. Goodbye.